evening and welcome to the May 4th, 2022 meeting of the Fitchburg Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission has 7 members. Members are citizens residing in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. The commission is appointed by the City Council and serves on a volunteer basis. The commission collaborates with the residents, business, and organizations to facilitate compliance with the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Fitchburg Wetlands Bylaw. Meeting of this commission are subject to and abide by the open meeting law. If you would like more information about any of these regulations, feel free to ask a commissioner, agent, or environmental consultant. Thank you for your commitment to the conservation of our natural resources. Thank you for your patience as we navigate this hybrid meeting. The commission requests that folks wishing to speak approach the podium and speak clearly into the microphone. The remote attendees maintain microphones on mute for privacy. If you would like to speak, use the chat or raise your hand function to alert the chair of your intention. Please be advised, FATV is recording this meeting for public broadcast. We ask that anyone else in the audience who is recording this meeting please identify themselves for the record now by standing and stating their name and address. Please place all electronic devices into silent mode. Do that too. Okay. Let's call the roll. Commissioner Bro.
Here. Aye.
Commissioner Baker.
Here.
Commissioner Christian.
Here.
Commissioner Donnelly.
Here.
Commissioner Helene.
Here.
Commissioner Satterfield present. Associate Commissioner Jacobs.
Here.
Welcome. Let's see. For the minutes, we have the minutes of the, can we have a motion and second to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of March 9th, 2022?
Tracy, I'll motion to accept the minutes.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Can I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of the April 12, 2022, from April 12, 2022?
I'll also motion to accept those.
I second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I didn't hear the motion.
To accept the meetings for the minutes for April.
Aye.
Thank you. So let's see.
I didn't see them in the Dropbox. I read the ones for March and the ones for the site walk, but not any for April.
Yeah, the ones in,
Uh-oh. Did I make a
sorry,
mistake?
it was the 12th, I think. You go back to that spot.
I have April 12.
Right, that wasn't a regular meeting. That was a site walk over in
Oh, okay.
Stockbridge Highway with Bill for the Duncans.
Okay, so this is the, do we have to rescind the motion? Do we alter the motion?
I think just alter it so that it's not for the April regular meeting, but for the site walk that happened, which was not a regular meeting on April 12th.
Can we have a motion to amend the last motion to the special meeting of the April 12, 2022 site walk?
I motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Okay, moving on. Do we have a butter notification cards for
Duncans and one for 105? Yeah, Bill had sent that prior.
the Fitchburg property landowner? Is that one there?
And we have those as well.
What about the Fitchburg DPW?
Believe we do, but suggest maybe just, let's get that item, get to that when we get to that item.
Okay. Upon, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission We'll reopen the hearing for notice of intent, KCMC Management, proposed demolition of existing building and construct new drive-through only Dunkin' Donuts, 105 John Fitch Highway. I think we have Mr. Hannigan here to speak to this.
Good evening. Let me get to share the screen. Sorry, which one? Oh, got it. It's at the bottom, right? Bingo. And you minute now, there we go. Take it away, Bill. Let me get this centered more.
So for the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering, representing the applicant. I guess the meeting of April 6th, we went through the site plan, talked about the layout, the drainage improvements, the reduction in impervious area on the site, along with other improvements being made, including new parking areas, drive-through lanes, which conform to the city of Fitchburg requirements relative to the queuing length, and traffic patterns. We also talked about at the meeting of April 6th, the question relative to the land that's in the area and its impact on the floodplain in the area, and how this actually is an improvement over what's there right now because of the fact that we have a 30% reduction in impervious area on the project. We then moved to a site meeting on the 12th, where we visited the site with some of the commission members, and we looked at the various aspects within the buffer zone, specifically the areas within the 50 and 30-foot buffer zone, which we have asked for waivers for. And the questions, I believe, that came up relative to those waivers, I believe that we have addressed. The biggest part about the site right now is that there's a lot of invasive growth on the rear of the property near the wetlands, a lot of knotwood, which is probably one of the most difficult types of vegetation to get rid of. So what we've proposed is to, Mike, if you could just scroll down a little bit to show that drainage area, the basin in the back. Okay, so there's a drainage area that we proposed, and that area really is where a majority of the knotwood is on this particular portion of the overall property. So what we're proposing is that would be maintained as grass with, I believe that we discussed a condition within the order of conditions that would be perpetual to maintain that, to not allow the invasive species to grow back in that area there. So that would be a long-term maintenance item that we would add to the project as part of the acknowledgement of the waiver being granted by the commission. So in this particular project, there's also a significant reduction in peak rates of runoff for the project, along with the enhancement of the drainage going off the property. Right now, there is no real removal of sediment as it comes off the property. We're going to be adding and improving drainage structure with new catch basins with hoods, deep sumps, along with a total solids removal device, a water quality unit, which is the HydroGuard unit is what we've been typically using, but that will be, spec'd out during final construction. So overall, we feel it's a significant improvement to the wetland really is to the northwest on the property, but the drainage all comes out towards the front, towards John Fitch Highway. So the the surface water that we're creating that now drains to the John Fitch Highway side of the project is right now, it's unabated essentially, but it'll be significantly improved and cleaned prior to discharge, along with the decrease of impervious area. So if there's any additional questions, be happy to address them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hannigan. Let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? Please state your name and address for the record. Ma'am, are you here for this one? Okay. So hearing none from the public, let's turn to the commission. Are there any commissioners who have any questions for Mr. Hannigan or are related to this project?
Since the last site walk, I've read the contents of the documentation since, on the meeting that I had missed, and on the site walk, I was overall impressed by the plans, so
Thank you.
yeah, I'm okay with it.
You mentioned that you're putting in sump pumps. Is that,
No, deep sump catch basins.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the 4 foot below the outlet, and then there's a hood on top of that as well to capture sediment that can be deposited into the,
Where on the site are they located?
there are all the catch basins. So if I had
I can probably get
I'm going to bring a red light next time to point to the TV.
There's a lot going on
Yeah.
this plan.
So there's 4 catch basins on site. There's one that picks up water from the, where the 6 parking spaces are. There's one right down by the drive-through, the corner towards the front of the property on the left, Mike?
Okay,
Nope, towards the front of the building.
I know I'm trying to get there, because
Okay.
there's other things on the screen that's blocking my view that you
Yeah.
can't see.
So there are 4 catch basins on the property that we're going to be installing as part of the improvements. Right now, there are 2 catch basins existing, which are basically connected to each other, and then they just dump directly into the 36-inch pipe that goes underneath the road. So there's no mitigation whatsoever for suspended solids or for settleable solids within that. And then on top of that, when we do the piping going across the street to tie back into that same 36-inch line, there is a water quality unit that's going to be installed there to provide further mitigation. So we end up meeting the TSS removal rate required.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I'd like to just ask a few questions. I think overall, it sounds like it is a greater improvement over what's there, and the applicant is appropriately dealing with water quality and with creating less impervious area and less runoff off the site. So it sounds like a great improvement. But a few quick questions. What about snow removal? Where is snow stockpiled on the site?
If Mike could just scroll down a little bit, there are a couple of areas that can be stockpiled. Basically, the intent for the general snowstorms would be basically everything would be windrow plowed to the edges. But in larger events, there is snow storage available on the front island. It wouldn't be over there, that's in the wetland, where Mike is pointing.
Right in.
So there's some area up in front. There's areas on the back side of the 6 spaces as well, near that where the dumpster is located. And then on the back side, there's actually excess parking for employees, and we would propose that snow storage can be taken in that area as well. And then basically if the snow gets to the point where it's a huge storm and there's a lot of snow that has to be removed from the site, we would literally have them do snow removal as part of the operations. So that's the general snow removal operation plan.
Okay, thanks, Bill. And there's none of the disturbed areas in the floodplain, correct?
Down towards the gutter line of the street, the floodplain maps show up in that area there. There's an existing catch basin that the floodplain, the only way you really could get to it is if it backs up in the pipe but those elevations do show up on the mapping. So we would be doing work within the floodplain to put in that last manhole prior to connecting. And
But you're not taking up any,
no, so it would be
Flood
returned, right, there wouldn't be any, there would be disturbance during construction, but there wouldn't be any lost floodplain or any compensation required.
So that's what this dotted line is, Bill.
That's the floodplain line. It kind of loops around on itself. Then across the street, there's another one that kind of, that kind of comes from the catch basins more than anything. And then there is actually another one on the west side of the plan against the driveway near the buffer zone. Mike, if you look at that, just above where it says exit only, you see that darker line? Okay, so there is floodplain up in that area there. You can see the 100-year floodplain elevation designation for Zone A.
Okay.
Okay, so it's on the west of our property, which we're not touching, and then there's some areas in the front of the property which the only way I can see of how you would get there would be if the water backed up through the piping that's in the drainage system to get there. So, but we do note those on the plan.
have you proposed some type of like filter sock or something over the catch basins
Yeah,
while
I think,
construction's occurring?
yeah, we have silt sacks on the details.
Silt sacks, great.
Yep.
Okay, how about, so at the fast food restaurants, often a problem, we see a lot of trash. Is there some type of fencing or something to hold back the trash? There's going to be a regular cleanup by the employees?
I'm sure that they'll maintain that. I think that might have been something discussed during the planning process. But I think the general intent of these sites is to keep them, policed relative to trash.
All right, thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Tim, while we were speaking on floodplain, well, back when you were here, and the floodplain, the flood insurance rate maps were in effect at the time, back to 1991, I think, are finally in draft form, but they won't become final until early 2023.
The mapping that we're showing reflects those draft conditions.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, Director Erickson? Is it Director?
Commissioner.
Commissioner Erickson,
We can call him Nick, too.
do you have any comments before we move forward?
Thank you. Nick is just fine. You can call me Nick. I agree with Tim's comments. It's an improvement over existing conditions, both with water quality and the quantity of runoff reaching Baker Brook ultimately. So like Bill said, I think the only way that the site can flood under the 100-year storm is really if it backs up through those existing catch basins. So overall, I think it's a good proposal, good proposed design, and I support what's being proposed.
Thank you, Nick. Okay, anything else? Anyone else?
Our site walk, we observed an enormous amount of invasive Japanese knotweed, and the project is going to remove a good portion of it, and the maintenance plan thereafter is going to manage it, so we're ahead of the game there.
That was my question as far as the grass seed, and more a question for Ralph, I guess. Is that, an appropriate material? Is that the best material to use after taking out those invasive species to go with grass? Or is there something that might be better?
I don't know. Japanese knotweed is very difficult to eradicate. Usually it requires just repeatedly cutting it.
Right.
And I don't think putting grass is going to be any deterrence to it whatsoever. It's just going to come back because the root tubers are so persistent.
Right.
But if it's dug out, maybe you will, mostly control it.
Yeah, that's Commissioner Baker. Unfortunately, you weren't able to make the site meeting, but
Right.
we did talk about that specifically, that we would dig out the materials and replace them with clean vegetation. And the idea behind keeping it as grass and mowing it would be that to your point, that cutting it is the best way to get rid of it. We can't do anything beyond our property line, so we think it'll still try to creep back, but with the maintenance schedule on it, I think that that'll at least keep it at bay. That's the intent.
The area that we're talking about is all upland and buffer zone only.
I have a question that might be tangential, but is this the same proponent that owns the Dunkins down at the corner of John Fitch and Lunenburg Street?
It is, and what we did was we withdrew from the planning board down there, and they've now got this site under agreement to buy, to basically relocate that facility to this spot.
So if you're successful in doing that, can you say what's going to happen to the other site?
I can't because I don't know.
Okay.
I know
Fair
that
enough.
I can say, what I can say is that we're working on the Main Street site right now, and I think the intention is to probably build this site first, then get the Main Street site squared away. We'd have to knock that building down to rebuild that one. And it's probably more about retention of employees, that it might be that we keep the 2 John Fitch Highway sites open to maintain the employees and not lose them. In this market, it's very difficult to maintain employees. And then once the new Main Street the new Main Street site is built out, then transfer those employees back to Main Street. And at that point, I believe that the intention would be to close the John Fitch 580 site.
580
Yeah.
is the address,
Right.
right, yeah.
The reason that I asked is because we had some questions about that site, and I guess we'll just have to address them when the time comes.
Yeah, we anticipate that once we get this all approved with the commission, that we would be asking for a certificate of compliance, and the other one for no action, that since we didn't start the construction on that one. That's what we would be doing now. And if something else came along where there's another user that went in there to do something different, we'd have to come back to the commission at that point in time, as well as the planning board.
And since you mentioned the Main Street Dunkins, as I understand it, the driveway that comes out right at the intersection is going to be eliminated, and only,
We can't tell you that until we submit the plans.
oh, come on. Make it so, Bill.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ralph. That was my question, was related to how to rectify the notice of intent for John Fitch Highway over by Lunenburg Street. So, thank you, which is not totally jurisdictional for this. So, hearing no more from the commission. Any more? Anyone? Hearing no more, the chair closes the hearing for notice of intent. KCMC Management proposed demolition of existing building and construction of new drive-through only Dunkin' Donuts, 105 John Fitch Highway. Can we have a motion and a second to?
Motion to accept the plan as submitted.
I'll second.
Okay, this includes the boilerplate order of conditions, the pre-construction hearing with the agent, environmental consultant, the contractors, the heavy equipment operators, and to include the amendments that we made at the site visit. All in favor? Oh, let me just go through the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield approves. The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Hannigan.
Thanks, Mr. Hannigan.
Oh, you're here, that's right. Okay.
Back up again, huh?
Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40. Do we need to sign? Are we good? Do you want
I'll pass it around, just
to? Okay.
hang out for a bit afterwards, okay, to sign some things.
Okay, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent, Fitchburg Property Landowner, LLC, proposed 366,000 square feet warehouse and distribution building in the riverfront, 0 Crawford Street. Speaking to the notice of intent, Mr. Hannigan.
Good evening. For the record, Bill Hannigan with Hannigan Engineering. So this, as I'm sure the commission, just looking at the plan, understands it is a very large project. This is at the existing FRA land on Airport Road, Crawford Street, which has been used for multiple uses over the past several decades. So what the proposal is now is to go into the site, rework the site, regrade the site for a 367,000 square foot warehouse distribution center. It's what's referred to as a speculative building, so there's no end user tenant at this point in time. But what we have in the project right now is the site layout, grading, drainage, utilities for the entire project. There is work within the riverfront of the Nashua River, as well as within the riverfront of Baker Brook. The portion of work associated with Baker Brook is in Lunenburg. So coincidentally, we have a hearing with Lunenburg tonight as well, so we'll be dealing with them. We did just finish a project in Lunenburg that was associated with this same area relative to invasives, and so we have an agreement of how that area of the first 100-foot area relative to invasives on the Lunenburg side is going to be dealt with. Within Fitchburg, there are the area along the Nashua River is heavily degraded, and basically portions of it have grown back. Some portions have grown back through rubble and debris that are buried within the soil. It does not appear that there are any hazardous materials associated with that debris. That testing is currently being performed. But it is under the understanding, Mike, if we could just go to the other existing addition sheet that shows the Nashua. Nope, the other way.
Go down.
This shows, yeah, keep going. Yeah. So the area on the west side of the plan, if you will, that's where the Nashua River is. As you can see, there are cart paths or roadways really through that whole area that is utilized for various piles of debris and stockpiles of soils and many different things. So the intention of what we're trying to do is to provide a real good understanding of the degraded areas on the site, the areas that we're looking at for restoration, the areas that we're looking at relative to drainage uses within the riverfront area. And all of that comes together on some of the plans that have been submitted with the notice of intent that highlight the actual breakdown of how we're categorizing these areas within the project. So the plans are being reviewed by the planning board relative to site layout and design and drainage, and they're going to have peer review done of all that information along with the traffic. For the conservation stuff, number one, we don't have a DEP file number yet, so we're still waiting for that. But I really think that the next step with conservation is to really go out and have a site walk. And by getting out there with the commission, reviewing with the botanist, with us, Mr. Smith, I presume, would be wanting to come to take a look at what the approach of the project is in the field so that everybody can be because there's so many lines in the plans right now that it's very difficult to see exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And all in all, it's a vast improvement over what's out there right now. Similar to Dunkin' Donuts, but on a much greater scale. So that would be our next recommendation for the project. I can answer some of the initial questions if there are any, but I think that we're early in the game. We don't anticipate getting an approval tonight or tomorrow night or any time until we go through the whole process. But I think that the next step is really to get the members out there to see what we've been seeing and how we've designed the site and why we're doing what we're doing.
And just so folks can see, this line running, it's not quite, running up and down, it's not quite north-south, is the city line. Fitchburg on this side, Lunenburg on this side. And you have one later this evening with
Yeah, Chris is going to go to that one. Yeah. Okay. So, Mike, if you could go down to the actual riverfront sheets.
Yep.
So what we did, and I'm not sure if it's in the same PDF, but I guess we'll find out. It's a series of sheets way at the end.
Site grading.
It may be a different set of sheets, but I think he incorporated everything into the PDF set when he sent it over. So there's the drainage system. I think you're close.
No, that's the buildings.
That's a lighting plan. So there's another set of plans that we've sent over with, it was really a riverfront analysis sheet that talked about, it should be in the PDF set, but what we did was we went through and we classified the areas under existing conditions as being either degraded or previously disturbed and regrowth or new growth. Kind of went through that whole analysis of that aspect of the project so that a clear review of the riverfront area, which is the most critical part of the review for conservation, can be made. And then what we did was we took the proposed information, dropped that on the plans, and did a comparative analysis to show how we're compliant, is what it comes down to. So I think that information, do you see the plans, Mike?
Yeah, I'm looking at the paper copy of the plan. I'm not seeing what you're referring to. This is the same as the paper that I have. And this is the... Unless there was a different set between the site plan review and the Concom review.
No, there should be it should have been in the PDF set that was sent over as a
Or
separate,
maybe it's in the
a
NOI.
separate PDF.
Okay, let's take a look.
I don't have the full paper set with me. But,
Would it be in the NOI itself? In the...
that's what you just opened up, right? No?
No, this is the form, and maybe there's something attached to that. Oh, well,
Well, there's the analysis right there. Okay. And what we have the plan for is to basically understand what the analysis and how the analysis works. So the plan is the picture of what those numbers represent at the end of the day.
okay.
So if you go, if it would be all the way at the bottom, if it was there, Mike. Just drag that all the way down.
Yeah, there's a series of aerial photos.
Yeah. Yeah, there's 38 sheets there, so I gotta believe it's in that set.
Then we get into the NOI itself.
So, Bill, are you bringing in fill, or is it a net bringing in fill, or are you taking fill off the site?
That's a great question. The,
Looks like there's a ton of grading going on.
right. So the reality of it is we don't know. And the reason we don't know is because there's gonna be a process that has to take place. If you go down a little further, Mike, it's still, I think we're gonna be there. There's a process of the material that has to take place on site. So some of when we do the LiDAR on this, what happens is the LiDAR picks up on these piles or these areas of denser material. And some of those areas are basically big log piles that are out there. So if you've been to the site, you're familiar with that. And then from there, the other areas of material that are out there, there's a lot of asphalt, there's a lot of concrete, there's a lot of gravel, there's a lot of other stuff that's out there. So what's going to end up happening is as we're digging our way through the site, we're going to be needing to screen it to be able to know what material we can use, where we can put the material underneath the buildings, where we can not put the material, what material we can't put, what has to be hauled off. So the overall cut fill analysis right now is subject to the end result of what's really in the soil when we start digging it out. Because anything that's been disturbed, we have to dig down to natural and then bring back up in lifts to be able to support either parking, building, utilities, et cetera. So the intention is to be as balanced as we can, but we're anticipating having to take a bunch of stuff off, the wood products, buried debris that we, whatever may be out there, and then hopefully not have to bring fill material on. But I mean, obviously, we're going to be coming on with crushed stone, with concrete, with pavement, with that type of materials. But the idea is trying to get a balanced site as much as possible. And I think Chris is pretty close to a balanced site in this one right now. That's the intention, as it always is. But until we dig into the soil and really kind of know what's going on, we won't have the final answer on that.
Is it sandy soils, Bill? That's what
Yeah,
it
the
appears to
underlying
be.
soils are sandy, and we've done some test pits out there, and we get through the it's not really overburden, but the upper levels of materials, and you get down in just nice coarse sand pretty much everywhere on the site. So that's the benefit, but we have to pull anything that's been disturbed, have to pull out, move, stockpile it, screen it, bring it back, compact it, have it tested, and then we can start building from the site from back up there.
How about
May I
depth
ask a
to
question?
groundwater?
Okay, go ahead.
I don't have the exact answer for groundwater on the top of my head, but I know that Chris is utilizing in the, a lot of infiltration, which requires a 4-foot offset to groundwater in most cases. So I believe that we have, obviously with being next to the Nashua, we have some groundwater, but I think it's pretty low. I don't think there's a pretty good-sized drop in between the site grade and the Nashua. Matter of fact, the floodplain is now contained within the riverbanks. So that's got to be 4 or 5 feet in itself right there. So I think that I'm pretty sure groundwater is probably 8 to 10 feet down at least, depending upon where you are on the site.
Thank you.
But to get real information, I'd have to come back to you on that one.
Dr. Baker?
Yeah, this site, I've never set foot on it, but just from looking at the air photos and hearing the description, it sounds like waste of various kinds may have been deposited there. Has there been a site investigation to rule out the possibility that there are hazardous materials on this site?
Yeah, that's ongoing. That's part of the due diligence. So I don't have any information about that, but yes, that is being worked on. From what we see, it doesn't appear to be a landfill per se or anything like that. It looks to me like the city's used this as a gravel pit. They've hauled sand out of here for sanding the roads. If they cut down a tree, they bring it here and they put it in a pile, and there's a huge pile of not even stumps. It's really the first 25 feet of the biggest tree you could think about. They're out there. That's where they are. So, and then if the city, it looked like to me like, and I'm not, it's not, I don't know who did what, but if they went out and they dug up a road and they put in some new drainage piping, then all the spoils would come back and be dumped on the site, and they would grab gravel to bring it back to wherever the drainage was they put in, and that's where it would go. So there's a lot of material transfer on the property, but it doesn't seem like it was used as a landfill per se.
Well, I'm sure that may be the case, but at the same time, lots of sites like this weren't controlled that carefully all the time.
Yep.
And there may well be some illicit dumping that occurred there at some point.
Agreed. So that's beyond my scope for the project. Is they have an LSP that they have hired to run through that whole gamut of reviews.
And I have a question about who "they" is.
The owner.
Well,
actually, the applicant.
The owner, Fitchburg Property Landowner,
Yeah.
is so nondescript. Is that an entity distinct from the city of Fitchburg?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So this is no longer owned by the city of
No,
Fitchburg?
it is owned by the Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority. The applicant has the land under agreement for purchase.
I see.
Got to get more imaginative on the LLC names.
Yes.
The same with anyway.
There are, I believe that there are representatives of the
It's owned by
company
the
on, which is
Redevelopment
GFI Partners
Authority.
is the company that is
Which
putting
is-
forward the project.
Quasi, we'll get to that.
I'm sorry, there's a lot of back chatter. I can't tell who's talking
Sorry
right
about
now.
that. Commissioner Helena asked if we could have, who owns it? Just a clarification on who owns it.
It's owned by Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, and the land is under agreement for purchase by the Fitchburg Land. They set up an LLC for it, okay? Fitchburg Property Landowner LLC. GFI Partners is the developer, and Haley is on the line, so she's available if there are any
Oh, her
questions.
hand
But
is
so there's
Haley's here to talk.
yeah, there's a development company that is proposing the project,
What's the development company?
GFI Partners.
GFI Partners. Okay.
Can we add Haley?
The fact that,
She's
Bill, the fact that you said this is a speculative development,
Right.
it sounds like an awful lot of work could be carried out.
Let me clarify that. It's
right.
referred to as a speculative building, meaning that they don't have an end user lined up at this point in time. They are going to, when all approvals come in, they are going to build the building, and then they'll be leasing it out to either 1, 2, 3 tenants within the building for this use.
There are several folks from GFI here.
Yeah.
I see Haley and Jacqueline Bart. And you want to take comment from the applicants?
Yeah, Haley, go ahead.
Actually, I think Dan has to do that.
No.
No.
I see a mute.
Yeah, promote
But
to
I'm not
panelist.
seeing-
There we go. I just promoted Haley to panelist.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay.
Anyone else who wishes to speak from there, then
Got it.
promote however you like.
Okay.
Okay.
Mike, could you possibly just zoom in just the slightest bit?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you, sir.
Move that off of the way.
I think it's on that bottom,
Yeah, the bottom bar.
that bottom bar there,
Yeah, I know. If I
144%.
don't move that, occasionally that goes away.
No, that's where you can plus or minus on the left, bottom left to zoom in.
I think you're adding the wrong Haley in. This is Haley Page.
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. I got kicked out of the meeting. So if I can just interrupt and do a quick introduction. My name is Haley Palazzola, and I'm here with Fitchburg Land Property LLC, Property Owner LLC, which is an affiliate of GFI Partners. GFI Partners is a Boston-based real estate company. We own numerous properties in Fitchburg already, including the future Amazon project at 135 Intervale. We also own 2 warehouses off Authority Drive, and another one off of Development Road, 46 Development Road. So as Bill was saying, this property, we were reached out to the Redevelopment Authority, we had an interest. We do mostly industrial development kind of across the region. And we love Fitchburg. We're very encouraged by the growth in Fitchburg. And so this site is a very exciting opportunity for us. As Bill stated, this is a spec warehouse at this point, so we don't know exactly who planned to take this facility. It's being designed to hold either a single or multiple tenants at the facility. And so typically with these types of developments, what's happening in the marketplace right now is you start to permit the project, and until it really becomes real, tenants start to believe that there's actually going to be a warehouse here. So I believe by the time we break ground and definitely before we finish, we will have a tenant secured for this site. So thank you so much. That was a quick intro. I'm happy to answer any questions about who GFI is or anything else on the site. This is a further comment on the phase 1 and subsurface investigations. As Bill stated, those are ongoing. We have an LSP who we work with on all of our properties of EnviroTrack, And we do have some results back. As Bill stated, it's ongoing there.
Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Does anyone have comments or questions for Haley?
I got to throw a little skepticism in there because that's what I do. I'm probably more familiar with that area than most of the folks here. On or about 1986, 87, 88, into 90s. I subdivided that whole area down there on paper, two-dimensionally, for the purposes of an alternative site for a Fitchburg redevelopment authority, redevelopment site. I was told by then redevelopment authority head that was undevelopable. And here we are. At any rate, I came up with an alternative because saying no wasn't a good answer, but it was not developable. So on the surface, I see that it is developable, and the land on the other side of the street has been developed in the meantime as well. And then, tell me I'm wrong, but if the it looks to me like the redevelopment authority is bailing out the city of Fitchburg for hazardous waste, being blacktop, concrete, stumps, et cetera. We've been dumping there for a good long time. I often wondered when you had to pay the piper, and it appears that the redevelopment authority is the one paying that bill to remove the city's steel. If you can get away with it, great, but I don't think it's any, well, maybe I should recuse myself, but that's not going to happen. I'll have to get thrown out.
Mike, why did they say it was undevelopable?
Well, because they wanted an industrial park on Route 2 at Mount Elam Road and Rollstone Road. Therefore, that's the only thing that they wanted. And public hearing, no, that site can't be developed.
Is that?
It suited their story. And that's history. We're going forward. The irony.
Well, we hope to be able to show you how we can develop the site.
Okay.
They found a good engineer.
Yeah.
That must be it. They found an engineer that could do it.
Okay, so any more comments? We'll schedule a site visit.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Schedule a site visit.
How about, is a Sunday good? Let's see if, is it,
Not this
Weeknights are
Sunday.
best.
not this Sunday, no.
Weeknights works best for me.
And me.
Yeah, I don't think that Tim can get there on a weeknight.
Tim, you can't do weeknights?
If need be, I can.
Okay. So, how about, does someone want to throw out a date? I work late on a lot of weeknights, so, I mean, a Wednesday would be good, I guess, but it just
I can
depends.
do Wednesdays.
Wednesday, I'm at the
Yeah.
Poulter. So I cannot do Wednesdays
Okay, so no
typically.
Wednesday.
Sorry.
How about a Tuesday or a Thursday? We're looking at the 17th or the 19th.
I can do them both.
Commissioner
too.
Donnelly, the 17th or the 19th?
Yes.
Okay,
Either?
okay. Let's go with the
Yeah.
17th. Oh,
I
I'm
could
sorry,
do either
Ralph?
one. I
Ralph?
could do either one. Yes,
Okay.
I could
Let's
do
go.
either one.
Okay, Tuesday, May 17th. Does anyone have a time they want to throw out there?
Well, you're going to want to spend at least, I think, an hour plus, you know.
Yeah, how long
30?
is it going to take to
Does
go
that
through?
work?
You can walk, the area along the river is actually relatively walkable, so it shouldn't take, I think it probably could be done in half an hour, but we probably want to have an hour. So if you said 6 o'clock, we could be done by 7.
Okay, let's go with 6 o'clock. And what's the address? Where are we going to meet?
I think you know the main entrance to the airport pit. I'll be there. We'll put a orange cone outside. I'll
Yeah, so
talk to
the main
DPW
gate,
to have
it's a
it.
swing gate now, right? The
Gate.
yellow gate, right next to the
The main
bridge.
gate.
Yeah,
at the
to have the
airport?
gate open.
Is that
You know where Lost Arthur is on
Oh,
Airport
okay.
Road, technically Crawford Street, just to the left of that.
Oh,
You'll see the
okay.
entrance. So just after you go over the bridge over
Oh,
the
okay.
Nashua. Tim, did you hear that Tuesday on the 16th, is that okay?
Yes, I got it. May 17th.
17th.
Yeah, Tuesday, May 17, 6 PM.
Yeah.
All right.
And when would this hearing, is this hearing going to be continued to that site walk, and then from there continued to another meeting? Is that the intent?
Yeah, we'll post it.
Right.
Yeah, we'll post
So,
it.
because you'll have a quorum,
Yeah,
but
just in
I
case.
wouldn't expect that there would be a decision now.
Oh, God, no. No, 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 no. I'm just trying to figure out what the
Yeah.
next meeting would be.
Wednesday, June the 1st.
So June 1st on Wednesday would be our next meeting for this project. Yeah, in this setting, I guess, yeah.
Correct.
So can we have a motion and a second to continue this meeting to Tuesday, May 17th at 6 PM?
Motion made.
Second?
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hannigan. All right. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent, Fitchburg DPW, repairs to Arbor Way retaining wall.
And let's get that.
Let's see who we have here.
Well, Nick is here, and there are a few folks, let's see,
So we've got Aaron Guazalaka.
Aaron and Paige. Haley Page?
Is this the same Haley?
Oh,
Nope, different Haley.
Oh,
I don't know
okay,
if you
the
can hear me.
Okay. Okay. So who's going to speak to which engineer is going to speak to the?
Aaron. Aaron is going to be the engineer speaking to the
Name
project.
on the top?
Hi, can you hear me?
Haley? Is this Haley?
Oh. Sounds like Aaron. A little bit louder, Aaron?
Sorry, let me try to adjust my volume.
You good? Okay, let me get this up on the screen now. Scooch that out of the way. Oh, first off, I think just get everyone straight where we're talking, because if you don't have a reason to go out to that away, so this off of the industrial park, off of Route 2A, going up the hill like you're going up towards Game On. Before that, there's Stevens Road, and Rushlow Tool and Die is here. So, and then you go and take a left, and this is Arbor Way, which leads to E.L. Harvey, the waste management people, and Ashla and Ashok. They make decorative metal just off the page. So this arrow is where the retaining wall is. And there's a stream that is carried underneath that. So let's get back to the actual plan. Aaron, do you have a particular, or what's the best way to start here as far as looking at the materials in the, because the NOI is 150 pages long.
I do have a presentation, if I could share my screen.
Oh, okay, yes.
I also sent it earlier. I'm not sure if you have that access.
It would be easier if Aaron just shares his screen. So do you have the ability to do, let's see.
Mr. Bolak fixed it.
Okay. Okay, new share. Yeah, but I don't want to share my screen. Do you see that you
Would you like me to
can?
request to share my screen?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
I'll stop mine. Okay, Well, we're seeing you, Aaron, and, there we go. Bingo, we got it now.
I'm sorry, having some difficulties here. The screen I want to share, it's not allowing me to. Maybe it'll be easier if I just share a PDF. Okay, for the record, I am Aaron Guadzaloka. I representing Weston and Sampson, and I'm here tonight on behalf of City DPW for the Arbor Way retaining wall project. So Arbor Way is a small road that leads into an industrial area. There are two 20-foot plus or minus retaining walls on each side of the roadway, one on the northeast side and one on the southwest side. Both walls, they were constructed in 1999. At this point in time, they've sustained some damage and they're starting to fail. The wall on the northeast side has suffered a fair bit of damage. There's been drainage problems on Arbor Way, and as a result, the DPW cut out a section of curbing, thinking that it would allow the roadway to drain. What that's done is it's caused severe rilling and gullying and erosion behind the wall, and it's undermined it. So there's the wall is starting to rotate and slip, and it's in danger of collapse. Here are some photos of the current condition of the wall. This is looking down into, there was a perennial stream that runs down through here, by the way. And this is a large 20-foot by 10-foot structural steel arch culvert. This is looking at the northeast wall. And in this photo right here, you can see the point of failure on the upper section of the wall. And looking from the top of it, you can see how the wall's rotating backwards and starting to slip. And this is the erosion along the backside of the wall. So we looked at several alternatives as to what the city could do out there. One thing would be to do nothing, but that's really not much of an option at all, because eventually conditions are going to get worse and it will fail. Secondly, we looked at providing alternative access for the abutters and taking the entire roadway and the walls down and building them back up. Now that would involve serious disturbances to the resource areas, and it was economically unfeasible. There's a number of challenges with that. It's not a very good option at all. Another option that was looked at was to repair the wall and rebuild it in place. But due to the construction method of the wall, it wouldn't be feasible to repair one side of the wall and not the other and maintain access. So you run into some of the issues with the previous alternative that we looked at. And lastly, we looked at using earthen embankments to stabilize the walls in place. And this would allow us to keep the roadway open while it's being worked on. So there will be no disruption to the immediate businesses in the area. It was quite a bit easier from an ecological standpoint. There's not quite as many disturbances to the resource areas. For instance, if we had to provide alternate access to the site, there would have to be a temporary stream crossing built. So in addition to the construction disturbances at the location of construction, there would also be additional disturbances at the temporary crossing. So what we're proposing to do here is, I'm sorry, there's some more environmental impacts. We're looking at approximately 41 linear feet of bank disturbance. There's going to be approximately 2,200 square feet of permanent BVW disturbance, along with around plus or minus 2,400 square feet of temporary disturbance. We are proposing wetland replication areas adjacent to the same wetland system where the impacts will occur. There's going to be some minor impacts to land underwater, and all the work that's being proposed is located within the riverfront area. As far as the design goes, what we're proposing, this is going to consist of earthen embankments buttressed up against the retaining walls. As a result, we're going to have to add 2 sections of culvert extensions on each side. I believe they're approximately 40 feet on each end. With that, we'll be constructing wing walls at the culvert entrances to minimize the disturbances within the stream channel and land underwater. We are also proposing to cut out a large section of pavement up on the roadway, regrade it, eliminate any drainage issues, so we will avoid what caused this issue in the first place, the collapse of the wall. And 2 wetland replication areas. This is an approximate cross-section of what the slope will look like. Will be an earthen embankment, and we'll be placing riprap for armoring over the top of the soil. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Guasaloka. Let's open the floor for public comment. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? Doesn't look like there's anyone in the room here
Live
that wants to speak. Anyone? Hearing none from the public, let's turn to the commission.
Could we schedule a site walk on, following our 6 o'clock meeting? Crawford Street over to Arbor Way, May 17th.
Okay. Is that okay with you, Mr. Guasaloka?
Sorry, what was the date again?
May 17th, this would be approximately 7:15.
7:15 p.m.
Yeah, it's a Tuesday evening,
Tuesday.
because they have another one scheduled at 6 across town, on the opposite side, end of town.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we move on, this is Nick Erickson here. I just wanted to add a few things. So one of the primary issues that we had to deal with here is that this is a one-way dead-end access to 2 businesses. So keeping the road open during construction was one of our main priorities. And obviously the option that we chose to repair the walls reflects that. And the second thing that I just wanted to point out is that the existing culvert meets the Massachusetts stream crossing standards, and we're proposing to maintain that existing condition throughout the 2 culvert extensions on both sides. So just something to keep in mind when you do your site visit on May 17th. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I guess I had one question about the replication area. Maybe we can go over that when we're on the site visit. We can focus on that, where the replication areas are going to be, and how you intend to ensure that we can get those replication areas up and running.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, it's Tim Smith. So I remember approving this back in 1999 with Michael Nava, this project. So interesting to be looking at it at this point in time. So sounds like the applicant did a alternatives analysis, and the applicant has stated that this alternative, the earthen embankment, has the least adverse impacts associated with it. And I'm wondering if he can go into a little bit more detail about how this compares with just restoring the existing embankment versus the earthen embankment over the existing embankment.
Tim, I can answer that. This is Nick here. So right now, the roadway is supported by walls on both sides. They're close to 30 feet at the tallest, and they're Versalock block, concrete block retaining walls, and they've started to fail, as Aaron mentioned. So one of the things we looked at was possibly reconstructing this wall in place.
Right.
The issue is that the method of construction for these Versalock retaining walls involves these tieback anchors, basically with each level of the block wall. So essentially what we would have to do is shut down the entire roadway, which prevents access to both of these two businesses, in order to reconstruct the wall properly. One of the options that we looked at as part of this alternative was one of the businesses has a right-of-way that actually extends out to Industrial Road, but that would involve also potentially crossing wetlands and building a roadway through those wetlands to provide that alternative access during the construction period. So what we're proposing really, it serves two purposes. One, it maintains access to those two businesses, and two, it avoids creating an additional roadway that we don't necessarily need. So we utilize the same access point. We do have to fill the wetlands that Aaron pointed out and replicate those elsewhere. But in the grand scheme of things, when we considered the alternatives, this was determined to be the least impactful. And just to address the issue of potentially, after the wetlands are replicated, making sure that they're successful in their establishment and whatnot, we're proposing monitoring for 2 years post-construction, just to make sure that the replication is successful, and also report back to the Conservation Commission on an annual basis, just to give them an update as to how the replication is progressing.
Nick, that makes a whole lot of sense, that this option allows you to maintain access to for the two businesses to maintain access. So yeah, now I understand. Thank you.
And I mean, you guys will be out there after hours when you do your site walk, but if you go out there during the normal business day, there's trucks in and out of there almost every 10 minutes because it's a recycling, or Harvey at least is a recycling center. So it's vital to the operation of these two businesses that they stay open and accessible during business hours. Any sort of shutdown or alteration to access to the site would be extremely impactful to their operations.
And I guess when we go out there, we can see how you're going to access the base of the embankment, because you're not going to be working off the bridge. You're going to have to get down there somehow, and that's probably going to be a significant impact. But that's something we can look at when we get out in the field.
Right. And just to add to that, so when the industrial park went in way back, there was an access drive down into the area below the embankment that was constructed to support construction of that wall and whatever else was required at the time. I think there's a large detention area actually kind of set back from, or further upstream of that area to handle the two businesses and the roadway there. So that access road, I believe, is being proposed as the primary access route down into that area for construction.
Thanks, Nick.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Ralph.
In the NOI Appendix A project description, if you go to the first page after that, scope of work, the first sentence seems fine. The second sentence, however, doesn't make much sense. It says, additionally, improvements to the pavement and drainage system within the existing roadway will be performed to mitigate erosion that may occur in the future due to deficiencies in the roadway drainage, should these improvements not occur. Well, you can't start a sentence saying improvements, that the improvements will occur, and then say at the end that they should not occur. I think the should these improvements not occur should be struck, if I understand your meaning. But otherwise, it's a contradictory sentence.
I think I agree with you, Ralph. We'll take a look at that.
Yeah, thank you, Ralph. We'll take note of that and
All right,
revise.
you're welcome. The other sort of general comment I have, I'm very familiar with the site because my business was across the street where Robichaux is now for 6 years, from 2006 to 2012. So I used to go by there all the time. And now that there's so much truck traffic through there, it's heavy truck traffic constantly, it seems like there's going to need to be some attention given to hardening or stabilizing the road surface itself so that continued deterioration doesn't occur, with the result being that water infiltrates and destabilizes the new proposed embankments. What do you say?
Well, it seems to me that what may have happened is during the construction process, when they constructed this road, it's possible that there were compaction issues in the areas surrounding this catch basin. So there was additional settlement that occurred that shouldn't have occurred. So it ended up creating the low spot in the road. And then secondly, due to the proximity of the Harvey site, and with the trucks going up and down the road all day, all sorts of litter makes it into the catch basins. So you have issues with clogging, rubbish making it into the stormwater management system, and then with the local low spot around the catch basin, end up causing flooding. Now, I'm sure at first it was overrunning the back of the curb, you know, and it wasn't quite that bad, but once the curb was cut, it channelized that flow down the back of the wall, and then you get a big problem. So I think that if these repairs are properly made, which they should be, there's not going to be an issue going forward with. It doesn't seem to be a rutting problem, an issue with the weight of the vehicles on the road. It seemed to be just a settlement issue.
How about a solution to the catch basins backing up?
Well, we are proposing to place hoods on the outlets of the catch basins. So we're proposing
that shouldn't help with the trash, though, right?
Well, the way that the hoods on the catch basins, they go inside the outlet pipe, and they're designed to keep rubbish out of the pipes. So the trash will stay within the catch basin itself, and it can be cleaned from that point forward. You know, the problem is without the hoods, this rubbish gets down into the pipes and causes blockages. So that should eliminate that problem if they're properly maintained in the future.
Aaron, who's going to be maintaining those? I guess maybe this is too soon to ask, but it sounds like that's a crucial part of this.
Well, it's city-owned infrastructure, so that I would imagine will be on the DPW.
Yeah, that'll fall to us,
Okay.
Tracy. be DPW that needs to stay on top of this. A number of years ago, for some reason, someone decided to cut the curbing and create that erosion issue. Obviously, that's a temporary solution to a problem that shouldn't have been implemented. So we're aware of what's going on out there. We're aware of what maintenance needs to be done at this point. So we'll just need to make sure that that's carried forward with our maintenance plans at DPW.
Thank you, Nick. Do we have any other questions or comments? Dr. Baker?
No, I don't.
Okay, can we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing to the site visit of
Motion
May
to
7th?
continue.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your participation.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to other business. We've got Woodland Estates on Ringe Road.
Oh, right, at the record show that Mr. Christian needs to recuse himself.
Okay. Do we have an update on Woodland Estates?
The last planning board meeting last week in this room, they considered they reopened the hearing on the original approval from 2015, 2016, and put an end date of 12/31/2024, which had been requested by the applicant. So all site work is to be done by that time. They did leave room for, if there are pads, building pads for the placement of the individual units, as long as those were done by the end of 2024, they could pull in units to place on the pads that are already there. But no more infrastructure work, no more road work, no more utility work after that end of 2024.
And so, and to the new NOI they're going to be submitting?
Don't have anything on that, but that would be for the...
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I can, Mike, I can speak to that. So Jamie did send an email or a letter, and he stated that the replication work had not been completed. There was still some work that needed to be required for the detention area, the detention basin, which is in the 100-foot buffer zone. And it sounded like there was some encroachment into the buffer zone that needed to be addressed. So Whitman and Bingham will be filing a notice of intent to address those issues.
Is that something that Jamie sent to you, Tim?
I thought he just copied me and he sent it to you, Mike. I'll have to check my email, but sounds like Tracy's aware of it. But yeah, there was a letter sent. I'll make sure you get a copy of it, Mike.
Okay.
Do we have a date on that, Mike, Tim, of when that notice of intent is going to be filed?
It should be filed I anticipated it'd be filed at this meeting, but if not at this meeting, the next meeting. And I would recommend if the commission does not receive it by the next meeting, that they issue an enforcement order. But I know it is Jamie's, because I also talked to Jamie on the phone about it, Jamie Rowe, and I know it is his intent to file the NOI.
Okay. Any comments from the commissioners?
I've had multiple abutters approach me with a myriad of concerns regarding this project, and including ongoing blasting, that they've never received abutter notices, and that they are very concerned with this end date through the zoning board, and that there is blasting and building and things like that going on in Watershed. So I would, recommend that we do take action sooner rather than later to remediate this and issue a violation notice if possible. We should get on a site walk. I think that there's a lot going on up there that we should be involved more heavily going forward. I think that abutters are very, very concerned, and I think they have reason to be.
I've also heard complaints about this site with respect to the blasting, the jackhammering constantly, the huge equipment that's been running for much longer than anyone there expected it would, making life really difficult. Now, I realize those are not necessarily jurisdictional to us, more to the planning board, but to the extent that this does fall in our jurisdiction, I think we need to weigh in.
Couple of questions. Did the flooding in the northerly section of the development onto the abutters property, was that satisfactorily resolved? Tim, you might be able to answer that.
Yeah, so I don't know that it was fully resolved. I know it was partially resolved, so I do know that they did rough grade a drainage system, but I don't know that it was completed.
Is that temporary or permanent?
I don't know if that's what I'm saying. I think I know they did something temporary. I don't know that the permanent solution was. I don't think it was, because they haven't finished the roadway construction, so there's no way that they could have put the catch basins in. So I think it's just they have a temporary fix now, but not the permanent fix.
Thank you, Tim. Second question. I believe I heard you say, Madam Chair, there was an enforcement order. There has been an enforcement order? Or maybe Tim said it.
No, yeah, there hasn't been an enforcement order.
Not on the northerly end, but the unfinished work for the order of conditions.
We have not issued an enforcement order, no. Okay. And that's what, but there, again, there's work that needs to occur, and we don't have the order of conditions has expired, so we've got work that needs to occur. The replication was not completed in compliance with the order of conditions. So right now, work ongoing at that site is in violation of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Okay.
Now, the applicant has said it's their intent to file a notice of intent to bring the site into compliance with the act. But if it goes on any longer, certainly an enforcement order is warranted.
So, answer my question. Our obligation is, they're in violation. Our obligation is to issue an enforcement order. And rather than waiting patiently for the applicant and/or the violator to come to us with a new app, we push it on our schedule and not necessarily theirs. So what do we want? Tell them what we want, put it in the enforcement order, and then follow up. Or sit back and wait for them to steer the cart.
I believe.
I addressed the Conservation Commission on that.
Yeah.
What do you want? Put it in the enforcement order, get what you want.
I think they need to stop all blasting, and any further excavating or any further work needs to be stopped until they come before us and we remediate the current issues and come up with a solid plan going forward. So that should be issued.
Understand the cease and desist, and they understand money. Those are the two tools that we have. And if we're not going to use them, we can talk about it, or we can use the tools that we have. I propose that we do those two things, an enforcement order, including monetary and/or cease and desist, to get.
Mike.
But we have to know what we want. The idea of just throwing it out there and
Yeah.
You got to know what is our resolve and share it with them. Well, maybe get it overnight.
Mike, to your point, my recollection from our site walk with Jamie Rowe was that these issues would be resolved when they get done removing that excess rock mountain and creating the water conduits that will lead back towards the entrance part of the site, from the part of the site where there's a violation. Is that correct? Am I remembering it right?
Can you repeat that, Ralph, please?
That he can't rectify the violation that we brought to his attention until they finish removing all that rock and dig the conduit that's going to bring water from that part of the site back to the entrance area of the site, of the manufactured home site. And if that's correct, then we can issue a cease and desist, but they're not going to be able to rectify it because we'll have told them to stop what they need to do. But I may not be remembering it correctly, so please correct me if I'm not.
Ralph, one thing they can do is complete the replication area.
That'd be a start.
So again, speaking on behalf of abutters that have approached me, that 2022 date is pretty concerning as far as all blasting. So at this point, I would prefer, I just am one person on the commission here, but I feel that they should really have to come back, remediate any prior violations, or present a plan and a date, a timeline of when this will be remediated, when when the concerns will be addressed as far as the neighbors go, and, as far as also with what we can control in our scope, obviously the watershed, the violations having to do with the Watershed Act. So I think that might be a good plan, but I really would like to see a violation notice sent out to them sooner rather than later, because these folks have been sitting, abutters have been dealing with this issue for months ongoing now. We don't have an end date in sight, and then we can have them come before us and we can come up with a plan.
May I suggest that this is kind of a combination Conservation Commission and Planning Board issue? Shouldn't there be an attempt to make some sort of collaborative steps such that, what Mary just suggested is also done in a way that will clear up the issues that don't fall within our jurisdiction all at the same time? Is that realistic, or is that politically not viable?
Wonderful idea. We have control over wetlands violation. Let's exercise it. If we're not willing to do the collaboration with the planning department, what makes you think we're going to do that? We should, I agree, but let's take care of our business and then at the same time collaborate with the planning board. Let me ask a question. Has the commission ever, with regard to stormwater management, have we ever given permission to an applicant to dig a detention pond or a temporary siltation basin on another person's property? And that's effectively what's happened on the north end. Again, these two different issues. But on the north end, they're managing runoff on an abutting property. We would have never given permission to do that, so there has to be some accountability. Where can we do it? If we can't do it on the north end, we sure as hell can do it on the south end, and let's do it. Let's do what we can do on the south end with not a cease and desist, but a violation notice and a performance to our date, to our satisfaction. We still need to know what we want.
So can we, at this moment, take a quick minute to run through what the violations are that are within our jurisdiction? I don't know that blasting is within the CONSCOM jurisdiction. I think that falls under the fire department, doesn't it?
Well, if it's in our watershed area. but,
Yeah, it's not in the buffer zone.
okay.
And it might help if I read what Jamie wrote, because he actually he addresses the issues. For me, the issue is that we've been talking about this for a number of months, and we still don't have a notice of intent. So I certainly understand the commission's frustration at this point, and I share that frustration. But what Jamie writes is, as you know, the order conditions for this project has expired. Most of all work has been completed within the 100-foot buffer zone. However, based on a recent site evaluation, this firm will be filing a notice of intent to complete the following. 1, wetland replication area. 2, address trash depositing within the buffer zone and wetland area. 3, complete the stormwater management system. I anticipate the notice of intent to be filed within the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'm happy to attend the next Conservation Commission meeting to discuss any issues related to this project. Please let me know if you want me to attend the May 2022 Conservation Commission meeting for a general update discussion. I look forward to getting this project back in compliance with the Wetlands Protection Act in order to finish this site work by 12/31/2024 for all concerned abutters. It sounds like that. So Jamie sent this email to Mike's, but sounds like Mike, for some reason, did not get the letter, so couldn't request that Jamie come in to present this personally.
Yeah, I'm not remembering that, Tim, at all. I'm kind of looking through my work emails.
I just forwarded it to you, Mike, I think I forwarded it to most of the commissioners.
2 things I got out of that, Tim, was one, plan. Plan is not performance, plan is plan. Carrying out the plan would be performance, and that's what we're looking for. Long overdue, I might add. And then, secondly, the date that was shared with us on the planned but not performance was, well, it was dictated by the applicant, and if the Conservation Commission is happy with that, that's all well and good. If they would like to move that date up, they have every right to do so when the plan comes in. But short of that, we have the ability to do a couple of things. Not the plan and not the performance, but our duty.
Tracy, I have a question. Just, as it relates to this project, which I'm just getting up to speed with, but in general, when an order of conditions on a project is issued and it expires, what is the normal procedures that take place, to Mike's point, of holding those applicants responsible? And now, how can they keep going if their order of conditions has expired?
Mike, do you want to take that?
Well, to Tim's point earlier, there's a violation because there's work that hadn't been done. There's work that needs to be done within the commission's jurisdiction, that is on the, closer to Ringe Road, closer to where the replication area and the D basin is. The work that is outside of the commission's jurisdiction, further in, closer to the abutter's property, is not within the commission's jurisdiction. So I think what Mr. Donnelly was mentioning earlier is perfectly appropriate. Enforcement order, submit an NOI by, pick a date, and showing the replication area, and give the commission a schedule when that is going to be finished and when the rest of the work is going to be finished.
I agree. And to further answer Joyce's question, the applicant could have filed for a request to extend the order conditions. The order conditions expires within 3 years, but the applicant can request the Conservation Commission to extend the order conditions. The applicant failed to do that. So now they have work that needs to be done, and they don't have an order condition. So work can be done under 2 conditions. Either work is done because the applicant has an order of conditions, or work is done because the Conservation Commission issued a violation notice, some type of violation notice or an enforcement order, and that work is being done pursuant to the violation or notice of enforcement order. Right now, we've got work ongoing, and there's no violation notice, no order of conditions. So they're technically in violation of the Wetlands Protection Act. And Jamie admits it in his email, saying that his intent is to file a notice of intent to bring the site back into compliance.
My question is, can we shut down all site work until this is resolved, or can we just shut down what's in the buffer zone?
So the commission can issue a cease and desist for work, but the commission's jurisdiction is limited to to work within the 100-foot buffer zone.
And where they're blasting is out of that?
It's out of the buffer zone, yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should issue a notice of violation and immediate cease and desist on the work that is within our scope at least.
I think to Commissioner Donnelly's point, it really should be when their order of condition has expired and nothing is completed, they should have to immediately come back before the commission and discuss what their plans are, new timeline, where the project status is. And I agree with Commissioner Donnelly, not on the proposed project planner's timeframe, but on the commission's timeframe.
So to answer that question, Joyce, when it came to the commission's attention from the abutters that this was, the order of conditions had expired, that's when it triggered us to be communicating with Woodland Estate. So that happened during, gosh, it's been a while.
And we should probably, going forward, have something on the docket of any open, notice of intents that are expiring, that we can go check if the work has been done, completed, at least call the applicants and see what's, have you wrapped up that work? Okay, great. Or if you haven't, it's time to come back in and refile with us.
So we had started a project of going through certificates of compliance and sort of cleaning those up through the last, since the Wetlands Protection Act started. And it is, we've been, that's something we've been working on.
And we can continue to get better at that. But
there's just a
builders don't know.
There's a lot of them.
People don't know the process either, so.
2 points I'd like to make.
The builders know what the process is. Okay, let's just remember that.
One is, when you get, with regard to the expired deal, when you don't pay your loan, they call the loan. We're in a position right now to call the loan. But that aside, I politely request that anything that's on the docket in the future, that both the plans and the order of conditions are here for us to review. That would require Mike to go through the file, and if it's on the docket in correspondence and/or other, that we have the plan in front of us, we could answer a lot of our own questions about where the violations are, if we had it, if we had the order of conditions and the project plan in front of us. That, number one. And number two, how this would work. When they come in with a plan, we could accept it or reject it or modify it. One of our bargaining chips, in terms of they give us a date of 23 or 24, and we want to move it up. We can move it up to 22, 2 years in advance of what they proposed. They don't like that. There's an unsettling controversy north of our jurisdiction. We can grab that storage of water on an abutter's property, bring that into play as a negotiating tool. If they want to buy more time, then we want some resolve outside of our jurisdiction. We can use that as a bargaining tool. They get what they want, provided they take care of something that's outside of our wetlands purview, which the north portion of the site appears to be. But from here on in, if it's going to be on the docket, we've got to have the ammunition to discuss it, or we can talk in circles all night long.
Well, you can talk in circles all night long, even with the stuff in front of you from what.
I didn't hear you.
We don't want to do that. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I just want to make one more point. So it's not just that they haven't completed the project. they haven't completed the replication area. So in other words, when they got access to the site, they filled in a wetland to get access to the site. And the performance standard in the Wetlands Protection Act says, if you fill in a wetland, you have to replicate that wetland. So the Conservation Commission approved it that because they met the performance standard, because they showed that they were going to replicate the wetland. But that was never done. So they did not provide the mitigation that was required for the project to go forward. So it's more than just not completing the detention basin or their infrastructure. They never provided the mitigation measure that followed through on the performance standard that allowed that project to move forward. So it's a pretty significant issue. It's not just not completing the project.
Motion to issue a violation notice together with a $300 per day fine until such time as they report back to the Conservation Commission's agent with a application in 30 days. But the telephone call will stop the $300 per day fine. One fine of $300 a day until that telephone call comes in, and they're on the docket for 30 days from today. Unless you want to have a special meeting, 2 weeks from today. Absent that, they don't have to do a damn thing.
Why don't we put May 25th, that's 1 week before the next meeting, so that Mike has all the information following our regulations. That gives them 2 weeks.
To do what?
Submit their notice of intent.
For the fine to start, the cease and desist should start immediately, that they stop action.
Okay, okay. I'm just saying the date, let's just be mindful of the date needs to be at least 1 week ahead of the next meeting. They have to have their work in
For
1
them
week
to
ahead
get
of the
it in.
next week meeting.
Okay.
Which would be May 25th, which is
That's fine.
approximately 2 weeks from today.
May 18.
May 18th?
2 weeks, May
Okay.
18, Wednesday.
Okay.
This room may be taken. Or not.
Can we have
Going to
a,
happen on the 18th. You're talking for a meeting on the 18th or submitting an NOI by the 18th?
Get them in here. They're going to respond to you in 24 hours, and they'll come with a notice of intent on May 18th at our meeting. We're having a special meeting just for them. If I'm wrong, tell me.
So,
Because you don't know this room is available.
As
And most
I
likely
said, this
it-
room may not be available.
Probably ain't. It probably won't be.
Okay, okay.
So, but you want as I understand your motion, Michael, the NOI submitted 2 weeks prior to the usual, the regular May hearing.
We'll run up against that constraint. Okay, so be it. So it's a 30-day meeting and an 18-day submission. Oh,
Right.
excuse me, a 2-week
Gotcha,
submission.
yeah.
Understood.
so they'll be, hopefully, if they get back to us, presenting at the next meeting, but we are issuing a violation notice tomorrow that they cease and desist and must call your office, must come in contact, this was your, to,
I didn't say a cease and desist, but I did say a $300 per day. And that 18th is another benchmark that they must meet, or $300 per day. They understand that. They understand that if it's in writing, and they'll understand it because it's in their pocketbook. And we'll get performance under those circumstances. The cease and desist, if we really want compliance, we won't stop them from working. If we want compliance, they have to go forward in order to do it.
well, they might go forward and make the problem worse.
We can
is
cripple them,
my-
really. We can cripple them, but we may not get compliance if we cripple them.
So I'd rather stop the work that's going on
Form of a
before
motion
they,
that does it. It's not my motion.
Right, we have a motion on the table currently. Can you read that motion for us?
Seriously?
Jesus is not in this meeting.
To issue an enforcement order to submit a notice of intent by May 18th. And the reason being the replication area, there's no valid order of conditions on the site at this time. The replication area hasn't been done. And there'd be a $300 per day fine starting on May 18th if there isn't a notice of intent submitted by that date.
And will the work be halting until,
We can say cease and desist on any work within the commission's jurisdiction.
okay.
That
I
doesn't
would,
take care of anything further north into the site where they most recently have been working, but at least, I mean, I don't think they've been working in the area within the
Okay.
commission's jurisdiction real recently.
And this has been the concern the whole time, is that the work that's being done is outside of our jurisdiction. So while it's completely acceptable for the abutters to contact us about this work, it really does, I mean, we identified early on when this came to us what was within our jurisdiction and what wasn't. And so we have to maintain that. And this has been going through planning board as well, because what falls outside of our jurisdiction falls under their jurisdiction.
right, okay.
Was
Well,
there a
then
second to Mike's?
Do we have a
whoever
second
motion?
for the motion?
I second that motion.
Oh, sorry, I'll second it, but I think someone else already did.
Oh, okay. So we have a second. I'm just going to call a vote. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Yes.
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield votes in favor. The motion passes. Okay. So can you, the motion passes. Thank you very much. Mike, can you give us a heads up when that gets sent out? The order?
Yeah, I can send it out tomorrow. I'll stop, actually, depending on what time you decide to end tonight, we can go next door and finish it.
Okay. So let's move forward. Thank you, everyone. Slocum. Well, let's see. So we have another commissioner. This is a hot area. We had Commissioner Helene is recusing himself from this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. We still have a quorum.
We still have 4 folks.
Okay, yeah, we do. No, I was just checking. We've got I've had some neighbor complaints about this one as well. I was talking with Mr. Smith earlier that we should get out there and follow through on the wetland replication area that remember there was a replication that occurred, or a restoration. It was a restoration. And we need to follow through and see what that restoration is like. And on the restoration plan. And then look and see if there are any further violations out there.
Do you want to do that as a group, or just a few folks, or what?
You want to do that as a group?
Again, as concerns violations, we'd need to know what the order of conditions was and what the project plan entailed in order to determine what was a violation based on what they said they were going to do and what we required them to do. So we'd need that plan, number one. And then secondly, I'm not sure that they didn't do the replication. I thought we were out there, and I thought we saw where they had graded in the wetland area. One thing is certain, ongoing dumping in the buffer zone in the riverfront has never stopped. But I think the project plan and the order of conditions is, if we're going to go out there, have it, identify the violations, you could tell them verbally, and $300 a day, one fine, and 2 weeks to get in
Okay.
their plan. And if we can stick to a model and nobody gets picked on, it's standard procedure.
Thank you. Michael O'Hara, what was Mary Ann DePinto's responsibility? Do we receive any paperwork from that consultant on the status of the restoration project?
After the restoration was done, I have not, no. Obviously, I haven't asked for a certificate of compliance. That would have needed a statement from Mary Ann that the work was done per the plan. So I can check with Mary Ann.
Okay, do we want to, I don't think the 17th is a good date to go out to go out there. Do we want to?
It's going to take long enough to take a look at two sites on the opposite ends of town.
Yeah, I think that's enough. I mean, we can find another day for this one. How about the 19th, May 19th?
Okay, by me.
Does that work for everyone?
It's a Thursday.
Thursday, May 19th.
May I ask, is it always necessary for the whole commission to make these visits? Whereby, maybe our agent, our conservation agent, Mike, can visit the site and just report back to us in an email or whatever. Doesn't have to wait till the next meeting. I just wonder if this rises to the.
Okay, so Mike O'Hara says that it'll be fine. He'll go out and identify if there's any violations. Can you let us know when you're going to do that? And if anybody wants to join him, they can go, but we have to make sure we don't have a quorum
Well, it might be too tough for folks to get out during the workday. I'll give Mrs. Donnelly a call.
Okay.
And Mike, if you need them, I've got well, you should have them too. I have the wetland restoration conditions. And
I do too, yeah.
For the commission's benefit, yeah, there are some follow-up requirements. So for example, condition number 3, at least 75% of the surface area of the restoration area shall be reestablished with indigenous wetland species within 2 growing seasons. A qualified wetland scientist shall certify to the plant species composition of the area in compliance with this condition. And I know we haven't received a report. And as the commission may recall, this was an endangered species habitat as well, so it's of particular importance.
So we're in the second growing season now, right? Because this was the tail end of 2020.
Yeah, and it actually said, number 7 says, the wetland scientist shall inspect the site and provide a written report to the commission after the fill is removed and seeding completed. B, in April, certify compliance with Natural Heritage's order. C, after 1 growing season to observe vegetation development. D, after 2 growing seasons to determine regulatory compliance. The report shall describe hydrological conditions of the restoration area, wetland vegetation, species coverage and vigor, and any remedial work that may be necessary. So there's a few other conditions that deal with follow-up reporting that appears not to have been done.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you very much.
May I speak as a member of the community with no affiliation to the commission?
Yes.
Okay, so
She's supposed to leave the room.
So reading in laws of recusal.
So let's state your name and address for the record.
Mary Helene, 160 Yarnhouse Farm Road. I speak not as a member or with any affiliation to the commission. I'm recused from this meeting in that regard, but as a member of, just a typical member of the community. So my issue as a neighbor and in a butter is the ongoing dumping within the buffer zone. So I would request that the commission look at the ongoing dumping within the buffer zone. And at this point, it had gone on for over a week, last week and now into this week, and now the work is all done. So now there needs to be a possible remediation plan for any existing violations. And the reason, as an abutter, why I am so concerned about this work is because of it being done in watershed or buffer zone areas, and I am downhill from them, and I will receive now any water that is displaced coming down into my foundation and my property. So that is why I, as a member of the community, have to be involved in this. And I hope that the commission will take that into consideration and look at all of the dumping that has been going on consistently and all of the fill of the land and how that affects the watershed on the overall property. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Helene. So Michael, when you're out there, will you pay attention to the dumping and that's going on, the ongoing dumping? Okay, do we have any other comments? All right. So when are you going to go? When can you do this, Michael? Do we have a date?
I'll let you guys know when email.
Okay.
Okay.
In the next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not tomorrow, because after the violation notice goes out, taking my sister for her birthday.
So we'll just look for that email within the next week. All right, moving forward, I wanted to give Dr. Baker a chance under correspondence to talk about the forest landowner workshop that's being worked on. You guys can come back now. Go ahead, Dr. Baker.
All right, thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. I'm showing up twice on the Zoom screen. It's very, very disconcerting. As a result of reviewing forest cutting plans that are provided to the commission, I became concerned when I saw that there's been so many parcels submitted to DCR Service Forester, about 16, Mike O'Hara tallied up, totaling about 500 acres of forest land in our city that either has been cut since approximately 2019 or is slated to be cut. And in checking around, this uptick in the amount of forest cutting that's going on by private landowners is also occurring in some of the neighboring towns, including Westminster, Ashburnham, and Hubbardston. I'm sorry, Winchendon. According to Chris Capone, the service forester for DCR in northern Worcester County. Used to be Mike Downey, but he's been relocated to another part of the state. So, you know, forest landowners are entitled to harvest their trees, but what's happening right now is with the very high timber prices, land prices, and maybe other factors, it sounds like loggers are approaching our landowners and saying, hey, we can get you a lot of money for your trees, more than we've ever seen before. And I'm afraid that this will accelerate and really have a dramatic impact on the city, means that some of the impacts we saw, for example, at Newville's property will be seen elsewhere or are already being seen elsewhere, in my opinion. And so one of the things that came to mind was, why don't we hold a public education session? I'm calling it Fitchburg Forest Forum. And the purpose for it would be to inform landowners about what their options are. They have options to do what they're already doing. They have other options, such as taking advantage of Chapter 61 tax breaks, maybe selling forest carbon credits, other kinds of stewardship, or even passive, inactive stewardship of the land that might be appropriate if they heard it as something that is appropriate for them to do. So I approached both the service forester and a professor from Trinity College in Hartford, who happens to be a really good speaker on the subject of what the benefits are of forest land for public health, for people, for biodiversity, for the environment. And they both agreed to the date that Michael had indicated this chamber would be available, Monday, June 27th. However, I heard today that it's not available because the school committee has bumped us out of there. So I have to go back and see if those two speakers are going to be available, but I think this would be a valuable session. We can invite people to attend in person or virtually, and we can let the surrounding area know about it too, since it's a more widespread problem than just Fitchburg. I would offer to be the moderator and host of this session, since I'm organizing it, and I have talked about it with Tracy, with Mike O'Hara, also with Tom Skorowski, and via email with Nick Erickson too. And I haven't heard any objections. So I just wanted to raise it to the commission and see if there's agreement that we do this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baker. So you'll let us know when the new date is? We have a new date?
Yeah,
for the
there's a
meeting?
couple of, what Ralph said is right. I think when the master meeting schedule was being made for this room, they were working off of the school committee schedule for 2020, 21 and 22. And at the time, the school committee didn't realize that Juneteenth was a holiday, so, because their regular meeting would be on the day out, well, that holiday, so they bumped it a week later. There are alternative meeting dates for this, where this room is available. And Ralph and I talked about that late this afternoon, but he has to check. I mean, the two folks had already committed to one. We could also potentially do it at another location, like next door at 718. The audio setup in the third floor conference room is quite a bit improved, but we'll see. We'll see if an alternative location is necessary. But I think it's...
You know, I neglected to say, this 500 acres or so that in these 16 parcels that have been submitted, that's approximately 5 to 10% of Fitchburg's forest cover in just a space of 2-3 years. So that's a really lot, and if it's accelerating, before we know it, it could be a really lot. So I think it certainly merits the attention of our commission.
I personally applaud you, Dr. Baker. I think it's wise to try and get out in front of this curve, honestly, and I think interacting with landowners and other members of our public is probably a great approach.
Thanks.
Are there any other comments from the commissioners? I applaud Dr. Baker's efforts. It's now that we can start to have hybrid educational events. I want to remind everyone that's part of our mission statement as well for our Conservation Commission, is to provide education. We have a history of doing so, and so I'm glad to see this coming back. If anybody has something similar that they want to propose, I think it's wonderful.
Tracy,
may I ask that Mike O'Hara please circulate to the rest of the commissioners the letter I wrote that sort of outlines the plan, and then everyone can see it. But it can't come from me, or that would be a violation of the open meeting law.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay,
Thank you, Mike.
On that, Tracy, I see in the calendar later in June, NRWA is going to have a talk by David Valley
Yes.
on Thursday, June 9th at 7 p.m. And that's got to have a virtual option too, I'm
Oh,
assuming.
good.
Ralph?
Yes, that's right.
Oh, good. So just to bring
Yeah.
any new commissioners up to date, David Valley is the head of the National Weather Service for this region. He's based in Taunton, and he's come and collaborated with the commission on a number of events where he came and talked about the data that the National Weather Service has collected and over the years since they've been around, and he has a great talk. And we worked with the Fitchburg Public Schools to include the middle school students in these talks when we were hosting them, and then it kind of fell by the wayside during the pandemic. But I'm glad Mr. Valley he loves Fitchburg, so he's always happy to come back to this area. But we were in talks a while ago about getting this started up again. So maybe in the fall. It's nice that we can do it now and have the hybrid, in-person and hybrid, the technology now.
Tracy, what date was that again?
Was it,
That was Thursday,
9th?
June 9th
Yeah.
at 7.
David Valley is a wonderful speaker. And I think we saw him at a Nashua River Watershed event, and that's where we met him and got him to come and talk.
Joyce, I can find
That's
the
right.
link to that and send it to the entire group.
If you would, please. Yeah.
It's on the NRWA's homepage.
Thank you, Dr. Baker.
Sure.
Okay. Let's see, the open space and recreation plan.
Yeah, last week. I
Update
think it
about
was
that.
Was it only last week? It seems like, yeah. We had a number of commission members who were in a sort of a kickoff meeting with the smaller group over next door with Tom Skorowski and Amy LeBlanc of our office and the consultant BSC group. Open space and recreation plan needs to be renewed, updated every so often. So they have a schedule for that. If all else goes, and there was really good input from the Concom members that were there at that kickoff meeting, particularly from Michael, I think, concerning maintenance of what we have, as opposed to just building new parks. And Ralph, too, had mentioned the concern about the increased deforestation. There's an open space survey that I'll circulate around too by email. Be great if you could fill out that and have some data. But the goal was to have a draft of the updated plan by September, I believe. So that is ongoing, and there'll be 2 public informational meetings on the schedule as well. I can send you that schedule to the entire commission. So that's ongoing. There's a couple other quick things just of note.
Okay.
On the violation notice subject, some of the material that was leaving the Ridge Road site, as Mr. Christian is well aware, and as I am well aware, because Mark had asked me to follow one of the trucks, was going out to Benson Street where Ridemore truck part repair is, if you know where that is. It's on the site of the old Fitchburg Foundry. 150 Benson, and I think 88 is another parcel. Anyway, 2 weeks ago, we met the building commissioner, Nick, the DBW commissioner, and myself went out, saw a violation on the backside, which is on Battles Street. And the property also fronts on Battle Street. That's the street at the city line that you go down to get to, really, MedStar ambulance. And there had been fill placed. Nick, if you're on the line, maybe your judgment is better, but I'm going to say maybe 10 yards away from the stream that runs through that property down to the Nashua River.
Yep, Mike, just for the record.
Yeah, sure, go ahead. That stream comes, I think, originally from up on, what's that little pond just to the north of the Mart?
It's on Street, just behind the apartments, behind Twin City Plaza.
Okay. And there's a large culvert, goes underneath the rail trail, and goes through Ridemore's property, ends up on airport property, on city property. But there's definitely a violation there. We paid a visit to Tim Pomalu, the proprietor there of Ridemore, and he's going to have, I got a call the next day from his engineer, who you may remember, Alton Stone, who was Walter Fiore's engineer back in the day. Alton is having an NOI prepared and a plan, because he did all the survey. So, but I think it might behoove the commission to authorize a violation notice, because there's obviously work done that should have gotten prior approval.
What was the address?
150 Benson Street.
Can we have a motion and a second to issue a violation notice for 150 Benson Street?
So moved.
Second? We have a second from Commissioner Bro. Let's call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly? Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield agrees? Aye.
You folks can take a ride down there and see for yourself, but it's kind of obvious. It's on the left-hand side, on the opposite side from the ambulance company.
On the opposite side of what?
Oh, you know, MedStar ambulance on the right-hand side, that's another
No,
story,
but-
not under jurisdiction, but
Okay.
I might be busy next week because I'm not sure when I'm going to be called into court to testify about an eminent domain issue that the city is defending.
Related to this?
Not related to Ridemore, related to MedStar ambulance.
Okay. Well, let's get that sent out then before open court.
Another item that I forgot to mention because it was getting late last time, the rain barrel. DPW is again offering a rain barrel distribution program, as they have for the last, 4 or 5 years. This was Jeff Morawski's and Tony's thing, if you recall. Jeff conceived of these idea, and Mark McNamara at the plant is undertaking it over. Last year, the commission voted to approve a not-to-exceed figure to reduce the cost of the barrels for Fitchburg residents, not to exceed $1,466. This year, if that is split 3 ways between, help me out, Nick, the wastewater account,
Stormwater.
And the commissions.
And the commission, yep. So wastewater, stormwater, and the commission, yep.
But the price proposed ask is a not-to-exceed figure of $1,733.33. So it goes up by about $300, from $1,400 and change to $1,700 and change is the ask. And I know Mark has asked me by email a couple of times, is the commission okay with this? I said I would ask.
So in the years past, we had asked for a motion and a second to give them the money for this.
And this will come from the Wetlands Protection Account, which is what the notice of intent fees are put into a separate account to be used at solely the commission's expense. And last we checked, it was about $18,000 in that account.
I move that we we do this, make this allocation.
Any discussion?
I was going to second it. I think we should continue to support the rain barrel program.
I think it's an expensive program with no measurable return. And it sounds good and it feels good. I think it's an expensive outlay with no measurable return.
Thank you. As I recall, last year, I think there were, I want to say 150. I don't know if anybody remembers. The last year we did it was the biggest year that there were people coming. I mean, only people from Fitchburg get the discounted price, and it's just for the first rain barrel. But as I recall, last year, there were people coming from all over the area to get those barrels, the surrounding area.
Barrels are expensive, huh?
Measurable word carries far.
You say people come from all over the area to get the barrels?
They came, yeah, people participated from outside of Fitchburg.
Oh,
The-
from up out of Fitchburg. We don't subsidize outside of Fitchburg.
That is correct. We are not subsidizing anybody. The only people who are subsidized are Fitchburg landowners and Fitchburg homeowners, I believe, and it was just for one barrel.
So Tracy, just to add, we could get the sales figures from the company that we work with called the Great American Rain Barrel Company. And in my opinion, the success is measured by the number of rain barrels that are actually purchased through the program, although we don't have a way to verify that those are actually installed and operated and so on and so forth. So I see Mike's point, but it is a program that's popular each year. We always end up with right around the amount of, right around the maximum amount of number of rain barrels that we can actually subsidize with the money that's produced from Concom, DPW, and wastewater divisions. So I support this program. You know, even if a fraction of the people that buy rain barrels actually use them like they're supposed to be used, I think it's still providing a service to the city, and it basically disconnecting roof runoff from, you know, receiving water bodies and whatnot.
The student loan forgiveness is popular.
So we have a motion on the table.
Second.
In a second. We'll take a vote on it. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Nay.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield votes in favor. The motion passes. And what was the amount, Michael?
$1,733.33. And just reading from Mark's email, like Nick said, Great American Rain Barrel Company's offering a discounted price. This year's price is $79, but for the first 130 rain barrels purchased by Fitchburg residents, the cost would be $40 each. After the first 130
expensive
rain
barrel,
barrels,
though.
you can still
Give you that,
get it at a cost of $79 each. The discounted price is only for Fitchburg residents.
I think it brings awareness to a solid, you know, an important thing. So
I use mine all the time.
I think it's good. Yeah, in that way. What are we-
Yeah,
what
it's
are we
something
doing?
people can do, and
Yes.
you know, these days it's hard to actually take individual actions that are meaningful. This is a small step, I think, to better awareness about water conservation.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. We have a certificate of compliance. Do we need?
There's several, yeah, but quickly, and I don't, to Mike's point earlier, I don't have the plan, but I think you will remember the project. LBK LLC, there was this is on property on way out Westminster Hill Road on the north side. So go out Westminster Hill Road and keep climbing and climbing. You go past St. Jude, Loisel, and it's a couple of lots beyond that, a 40-acre piece that had been approved for 150 some odd condominiums back in, it This is originally issued in 2004. Property owner is Louis Lunn. He still owns it. Never did anything with the site. The order of conditions is long since expired. The reason that it was requested for a certificate of compliance, apparently Louis has a deal with a builder, I think, that I've come in contact with. I'm not sure what the builder's grand plans are, but probably a small subdivision. But right now, we have an expired order of conditions, and the way to, on record, and the way to kind of clean that up is for the commission to issue a certificate of compliance with the invalid box checked, certified that the work regulated by the above reference order of conditions never commenced. Therefore, it lapsed and is no longer valid.
Can we have a motion and a second to issue a certificate of compliance with work not started or completed? Is
A
that
motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly? Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarahfield? Aye. Motion passes.
So why don't I send those down? They're written with Mark now. The Duncans voted on earlier tonight, approved earlier tonight, and that one. And while you're doing that, just a couple of quick things. I thought it'd be interesting to bring this to the commission's attention. Oh, I think you saw that last week. But Ralph knows about this. City got through Ralph and a lot of other folks' help, a recreational trails grant to put little kiosk signs like that at various points along trails at Cogs Hall and in the northern watershed, and I'm blanking where else, Ralph.
At Gateway Park.
Right.
And Coolidge Park and Crocker Conservation Area. Those are the, also to renew the deteriorating signs at Steamline Trail too.
Right. So, so I thought it'd be interesting that the commission might be interested in that. Oh, we got a note. Remember the spotted lanternfly? Remember that issue? Okay. I just briefly summarize an email from a few weeks ago from Astra Perkins at Mass Agriculture. As you're aware, we removed the infested Elianthus, that's the tree of heaven, several weeks ago now. There are still some stumps that could not be ground throughout the properties. They'd like to perform herbicide treatment on these, as tree of heaven has an incredible ability to sprout back. We don't want that to happen, etc. Many of the stumps are within the buffer zone of the river. Some are directly on the river. So we can, do you think the Concom would be amenable to us doing those, having those treatments done? And the treatment is usually a basal bark spray. And some of the trees are within 100 feet of the waterfront. It's applied only once per season in the midsummer. They can use an injectable chemical as an alternative if the commission is opposed to the spray. However, it is less effective. And Astra is just asking again what direction the commission would want to go. Is the spraying okay, or a direct injection of the tree heaven to ensure that the spotted lanternfly infestation doesn't happen again? And I guess I might defer to probably the person who knows most about it here, Ralph, the spray as opposed to the injection.
Yeah, I have not studied these chemicals. Nobody's handed me the information sheets, MSDS sheets or anything like that. So I can't really comment on whether one is better than the other.
Okay, well, I can find those, and, I mean, not right at the present time, and forward it over to you, Ralph.
Thank you.
I can get that information from Astra. Okay. some things in the future coming down the line, by the way. Next meeting, in Crocker Field. For years and years, they've talked about getting rid of the natural turf and putting down artificial turf. Well, somehow they got the money to do that. I'm not sure how or whether it's a grant, but we had a conversation, Nick and I did this morning, with Gale Associates, who will be submitting a notice of intent for the complete removal of the track at Crocker Field, installing a new track and installing a new artificial surface, kind of like the same type of surface over at that Fitchburg State did 15 years ago, and that they got approval earlier this year, if you remember, to redo that. So that will be coming up next month's meeting. Oh, and actually, the Fitchburg State's turf work will be starting as well within the next couple of weeks. We have a pre-construction meeting scheduled for that one. We did that. Oh, Michael, remember this, 691 Mount Elam Road. As you're heading from your house, so just below Damon Road, that's the recent homeowner who decided to pave or make impervious most of his backyard. Had a discussion with him today. He was looking for a wider driveway, but told him we were expecting a notice of intent and a plan to take care of the work that already was done in the buffer zone of the adjacent intermittent stream. So we expect action to be taken for that, so.
He continues to nibble into the buffer zone. That, while it was determined an intermittent stream, it's always run all year. So it's a perennial stream regardless of how it was identified. But he continues to nibble and dump and fill and encroach, as everybody does. And the idea of widening the driveway, I don't want to go there. I don't want to go there. Paved paradise.
Mike, just to add to all that, that guy's been extremely adversarial at every step of the way that we've dealt with him.
What did Nick say?
The gentleman has been adversarial at every step of the way. And he wasn't.
I don't know who brought this to your attention, but like I could put a wall on city property, but is his wall on city property, on the city's easement, sidewalk? It's not an easement, you own it.
Nick,
He's
you might need
constructing a
more.
wall now along that. Very nice wall, precast blocks. But
I don't know anything about the wall, Mike. I'll have to take a look at that
he's
tomorrow.
excavated along the wall, and it's just about where anybody might want to put a jet pump and a jet line for their sewerage, but that's all right. That's all right.
Ryan mentioned that when I talked to him this afternoon, Nick, to give him a heads up about the call. So I think he tried to put the stop to that kind of work, retaining wall.
You and the building department went out there, and this new revelation,
year ago.
this new request, he initiated it?
He submitted a curb cut permit to DPW, and we get a copy of that in order to widen his driveway to some
Okay.
pretty extraordinary width.
And initially, I didn't approach you on a Conservation Commission issue. It was more of a building, saving him some aggravation. Are you saying that there is a wetlands violation on site?
I believe there is, with all of that disturbance. I mean,
I agree, Mike.
Okay, I was informed that he had to have a runoff, what, he had to do some calcs or a plan for?
there was a disturbance of more than 20,000 square feet.
Yes.
In the backyard.
Yeah.
And that alone requires a stormwater management plan submitted to the DPW.
DPW. That was the shortcoming a year ago. Okay.
And that,
Yep.
And it remains outstanding?
and it remains outstanding once he found out apparently how much it was going to cost an engineer to prepare such a plan. And I think he's resistant to it.
Folks, we're ruining the neighborhood with what's going on.
On top of that, Mike, I think that you know, he's got the 20,000 square foot disturbance, but I think it's also within proximity to wetlands and a stream. So I think that's what, in addition to the 20,000 square feet, makes it a Concom issue.
Notice, excuse me, we're still in session. A motion to issue a violation notice to 631, 361, what's the number, Michael?
691.
691, for work within the buffer zone of a perennial stream, and then within the riverfront, and we'll start there. And DPW, get on it. You do your job. We'll do ours. Thank you. That was a motion.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Bro?
Aye.
Commissioner Baker?
Aye.
Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Helene?
Aye.
Mr. Satterfield? Aye. Get that, we're sending out violation notice, aren't we? And is that it, Michael?
There's a few different things that we just need a couple of signatures on, because during these hybrid meetings, sometimes there have only been a couple of warm bodies here, so like Marty Lebo's extension request. So we can come around and just take turns signing it. So you can do that, I suppose, after adjourning.
Okay, so this concludes our agenda for the meeting. The next regular meeting of the Fitchburg Conservation Commission is June 1st, 2022. Can we have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting of the May 4th, 2022 Fitchburg Conservation Commission?
Motion to adjourn?
Was there a second as well?
A second?
I think so.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. If there is no objection, I will take this as unanimous consent. We are adjourned at 8:39 p.m. Please make sure you...